Imagine for a minute if Brandon Sanderson wrote a book about some type of eldritch monster. That's the best way I can think to describe this book. What's up, Inklings? Today we're going to be discussing Rotten Gods by Jeremy Bruce Adams. This book was so incredible. I absolutely devoured this story. So let's talk about what this book is all about. Basically, in this world, there are people who have learned how to obtain immortality. But this process disfigures them and warps them into these horrifying, disgusting monsters. They use their influence, like hypnosis, to lure in subjects that will help them maintain this immortality. Now, these rotten gods keep themselves hidden away for the most part while they grow their power. And the reason why they keep themselves kind of hidden away is because there's a secret organization of assassins trained to hunt and kill them. One way is to poison these monster immortal creatures, but the other, more interesting way is dream-stalking, which is basically like assassin inception. And this story is all about a young recruit who is sent on his first mission of dream-stalking, and he might be a little in over his head. So with that context in mind, let's go ahead and dive into this indie review. Let's start off with the immersion, which I gave a 9.5 out of 10. This world felt incredibly deep and interesting from the moment I started with this story. You have a caste system within this city that they're living in of a hierarchy of individuals. They believe in reincarnation. There's a deep sense of religion with Arya and the three sisters, basically the creators of this universe. You've got a lot of different landscapes. You've got deserts and swamps, caverns, mountains, palaces, and dreamscapes as well. You've also got politics involved with this, with the main character's lineage and the expectations that come with that. And you've got different kind of like orders and secret societies within this story. You've got a lot of contrasting beliefs with what the rotten gods believe as opposed to the people who believe in the Aryas and the sisters. And you have like these lost ancient cities as well, which we kind of get a sneak peek of as people travel through this barren desert wasteland. So overall, it just felt incredibly immersive. I loved exploring this world and learning about the lore and seeing the different consequences to what was going on with the different belief systems. So it was just really interesting. I thought it was really well fleshed out and a really well built world. Now let's talk about the names. I gave the characters an 8.5 out of 10. I liked the characters. I think that maybe what I would have wanted a little bit more of is stronger action from the characters, meaning that they were more willing to make decisions and move the plot forward themselves as opposed to kind of being influenced by the plot. But it was still really good. Pyoshara is the main character that we're following, and he's a young man who is part of this school learning magic, and although he's really talented, he's just not really interested in getting good grades or going anywhere with this magical career. But his father is like the head magician of this society, so obviously there's like a lot of expectation placed upon him to succeed. But there's a very tense relationship between Pyoshara and his father, so he doesn't really care to impress him very much. So anyway, he ends up taking a different path, and as he's kind of learning a new set of skills and essentially learning his purpose in life, the main character felt incompetent to me. But the ironic thing is his incompetence was kind of the only reason he was able to try to accomplish his mission. So yeah, I see the value of that, and it worked really well, where I don't think that would work for a normal story, and I would expect book 2 to be a little bit different and for the main character to kind of be a little bit more skilled. But I liked how it played into the overall plot of the story. Now, the real hero of the story was definitely Hinathi. I loved her. If you like strong female main characters, she was fantastic. Now, I wouldn't say that she was a main character. She was definitely more of a side character, but I loved her character. I wanted to see more of Hinathi just because of how competent she was and just how driven and brutal and just incredible of a character that she was. But I also liked the other kind of side characters. I liked getting to see Zakarioth a little bit more and get to explore his personality throughout this, kind of in a vague way. I liked Gitayu and kind of him as a mentor role in this process. Zafira I thought was good, but kind of like didn't serve. I mean, she served a purpose, but I felt like she was more of a plot device. So I would expect to see more development from her character moving forward. All right, now let's talk about the magic, which I gave a 10 out of 10. I loved the magic of this world. I could absolutely do 10 more books of this world. There's a lot of different components to the magic of this world, so I'm going to try and break it down into several different pieces. First of all, you have the mages or the sorcerers in this world that have the ability to use magic, elemental magic. So they could use things like fire and earth and wind to change their surroundings and to use it to their benefit. You also have another group of basically soldier magical wielders who can internalize that magic, have more strength or stamina, so they can use it that way. But there are also costs and limits to this power. Things like being a vegetarian in order to keep the strength of your power at its maximum capacity. Or the fact that there were these tattoos that had a poison in them that could weaken the mind and the body. There's rituals that require souls to be cremated in order to return to the cycle of reincarnation. There's kind of like a thought magic that can manipulate thought and emotions. Now that's all cool. I love everything about that magic system, but we've kind of seen it before, so it's nothing necessarily new. I like how it was folded into the world, but what really made this a 10 out of 10 was first of all, the Eldritch monsters, the rotten gods themselves, incredibly great villains of the story. It's just like a classic villain. I love when we get a classic villain that's not morally gray, that is evil, but is also like impossible to defeat. Love a good villain. And I think that the way that these rotten gods are described and built is fantastic. And again, the only way to kill these creatures is to essentially kill them using dream-stalking, which is like a type of inception where they go into the dreamscape of the rotten god, this fake paradise that they've built, and they have to find a way to use this world against the rotten god in order to kill them. But then they have to also kill them in the real world. So just killing them in one place or the other isn't enough. Both places they have to kill this entity. So that concept of dream stalking, assassins going through these different like fake paradises to hunt down these disgusting monsters was so cool. I could spend, like I said, I am so excited for the rest of this series because I loved the dreamscapes that we got to explore in this world. And I think that this has just unlimited potential because of the way that it's constructed. Now let's talk about the infrastructure, which I gave a 9 out of 10. Let me start with a few of the things that I didn't like, which knocked it down from getting a solid 10. I didn't like the prologue, first of all. I felt like it wasn't necessary to the story. I would have liked to see something maybe a little bit further back rather than something right before the main events happening. I just didn't feel like it worked. It was fine. There was nothing wrong with it, but that prologue didn't really resonate with me. I think prologues really need to set the tone, and I think that while it did inspire some intrigue, I didn't think it necessarily set the right tone for this book. But it was good. It was fine. But I think that it could have been better. I also didn't like that there was a 3-year break kind of in the middle of the book during the training process. I feel like it could have either been worked in a few paragraphs saying like, over time I learned how to do this and then I developed these skills. And before I knew it, 3 years passed. Like there's a better way, I think, to work in like that time is passing, and just doing a hard break like that kind of feels a little bit lazy, but I don't hate it, but I don't love it. And then the final thing that I didn't love was kind of the lack of resolution at the end of the story. I felt like we needed one more chapter, maybe 2, of things kind of winding down, of us being able to take a breather, of us seeing what's coming next. Like I would have liked a little bit more of that, where I felt like it just kind of ended too abruptly and felt rushed. And I would have just like one more chapter to just get a chance to settle back down, know that everything's okay, but also see like, okay, now we have other problems to deal with. With that out of the way, like I said, it was still an incredibly well-structured book. I thought the tension was great. The pace was fantastic, constantly moving. The plot was super well developed. I loved where we went with the story. Just fantastic. And the prose reminded me of something like Brandon Sanderson, something that kind of felt like it was more, could be classified as YA, but works really well for adults also. So keep that in mind. Like if you like Mistborn, this felt like a Mistborn type of book. I really, really enjoy that style of writing. I really enjoyed this this world and these characters. So yeah, I thought the infrastructure was really well developed. And finally, my enjoyment of the book, if you couldn't already tell, was a 10 out of 10. This is everything that I look for in a fantasy story. You have assassins trained to hunt and kill these immortal monsters using their dreams. I'm in. It's like reverse Freddy Krueger. Like, how can it get any better than that? So I don't think I need to go into too much detail with it, but just know that when it comes to my reading preferences, I absolutely loved this book. I chewed right through it. I couldn't wait for the next one. It's just literally everything that I want from a fantasy. This is the type of book that I will recommend to people till I am blue in the face. I think it works for a lot of different types of fantasy readers, and I'm just really impressed with this author's work, and I'm looking forward to seeing more. That leaves Rotten Gods with an overall score of 9.4 out of 10. This got me as excited as when I first read Mistborn. It might be a little darker, but I don't think by much. Mistborn does have dark elements to it, like the Inquisitors and those types of things. So I think, you know, they're probably on about the same level. And I need the rest of this series today. If it was done today, I would have read the entire series and pushed the rest of my TBR down the line. That's how much I loved this book. I love this book. This is what I live for. Let's judge a book by the cover, shall we? I felt like the cover also was an absolute masterpiece. It's giving crippled god. It's giving burning white. It's just so good. It feels classic. It feels refined. It feels professional. I love the red color to it with the eye kind of hovering behind the island. I feel like this cover perfectly encapsulates what you're going to get with this story. Absolutely no notes, other than to just say that this cover is probably the best marketing tool for this book. So if you like the cover, I think you'll like the story. Now, as for the map, I feel like the map was a little small. I would have liked to see it expand across the entire page. And sometimes it was kind of hard to navigate where we were in the story. I am always referencing the map, and sometimes I got a little bit lost by it. I kind of had a general idea, but I think it could be a little bit clear. But everything else with the structure and the formatting and everything was fantastic. Really well done, very professional. So let's get this one added to the shelf. I think it looks pretty good up there as a cover facing. But that'll do it for today. So if you liked this video, be sure to like, subscribe if you haven't already joined the Indie Fantasy Club. We'd love to have you as part of the community. Be sure to check out some of my other book reviews to see which ones you should add to your TBR. And I will see you in the next video.